Welcome back. I want to talk to you about living in Flower Mound, Texas. If you're relocating from out of state, this is what you need to know before you pack. I live here, I work here, I invest here. I love Flower Mound, and I want you to love it too. I help families relocate, I help couples relocate, I help retirees relocate into this wonderful town, and I would like for you to experience it as well. Stick around because I'm going to share some surprises that most people make your move smooth. That's about what this whole channel is about, is to make your move as smooth as possible. So the first thing is, people ask me, well, what is the cost of living in Flower Mound as compared to the rest of the United States? Well, that's a really hard question to answer, but if you're moving in from California, where you're living in a $1 million 1,200 1,500 square foot home, for $1 million you're going to get well over 2,500, well over 3,000 square feet in Flower Mound, and you're going to get a new construction. There are areas of new construction, there are a lot of pre-owned areas, a lot of established communities. So the last thing that I read was the national average, we're about 4% higher than the national average, but it's not an apples to apples comparison. So you really need to get on whatever website you like to look at and look at the homes and kind of look at the yards and kind of start getting familiar with what Flower Mound has to offer. You're going to get more for your money here. That's why I moved here. I used to live in Dallas. I grew up in Dallas, but I've lived here for a little while, and there was a lot of things that were attractive to me. I got that storage house in the back that came with the house, and we've got a nice size yard. We're going to build a pool. We're in the process of doing that right now. It's about 2,500 square feet. It's my wife and I. That's all we need. We've got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Would have liked an extra half bath, but you know what? I'm happy with what we have. We have a 2-car garage. If this house were in Dallas, this is about 1/4 of an acre, same amount, it's easily over $1 million. That's not what it is in Flower Mound. I'm not going to tell you, but we can always look at comps, right? But it depends on, you're going to get bigger yards. A lot of times you're going to get, you can get a pool, you can find a pool. And if you like doing outdoor cooking, there's a lot of homes for sale with outdoor kitchens, and they're cool. I mean, they're done up really right with the cover and everything. I'm going to be putting the cover over here and have a little bit of an outdoor kitchen myself. I've got the room to grow, and that's what's important. To me, that's what's important, and I want to, hopefully that's to you as well, is you have an opportunity to kind of grow and change things. In Dallas, it's, or some of the bigger cities, it may be a little bit tougher. Even in, let me back up. So I help a lot of families and people, couples, retirees, relocate to Flower Mound, right? So, but a lot of times when I first talk to people about relocating, they want to be in certain parts of Dallas that are older and super expensive, or they want to be in Frisco. Frisco's giant. I mean, enormous. And I don't know where it ends. It just keeps going. And those 2 areas kind of pop out to relocating people. The problem with Frisco is the more homes that are being built out there, in the newer homes, they're built on smaller lots and they go up. I mean, if you're looking for a single-story home, yes, you can find it in Frisco. Yes, you can find it in Plano. Sometimes they're going to be older. They're going to be crack homes, probably have a lot of foundation issues. In the north part of this part of the state, I mean, a lot of homes do have foundation issues. Mine had foundation issues. You fix it and you go on, right? And it's just the soil. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. Living in Flower Mound, a big thing for me, and you can do a comparison because you can go on a county's website and you can look, for example, you can go on Dallas County Appraisal District, Tarrant County Appraisal District, Flower Mound's in Denton County, so you can go on the Denton County Appraisal District, and you can see what the tax rates are. Much lower in Denton as compared to, when I say much lower, you know, 0.5% is a lot because we don't have state income taxes. So you're paying property taxes. That's the bulk of where the state gets their money from, is property taxes. So that's a good way for you to kind of look and compare, and your realtor can help you with that, whoever you're using. HOA fees, to me, HOA fees are worth it, especially in Flower Mound, because Flower Mound as a town, as a city, takes care of, they really take care of the streets. They make sure the trash is picked up. Their water system is excellent. And they are constantly driving around looking for code compliance issues. And honestly, I haven't seen or heard of a whole lot that goes on that's negative, but when you have an HOA, you know, it prevents my neighbor from painting their brick in a neighborhood where there is no painted brick, or putting on some funky color on the exterior of their house, or putting a ton of flower pots in the front yard. I know it sounds funny, but I live in Bridlewood, and Bridlewood has a limit of 4 flower pots on the front of your house. Well, you know what? Think about it. You got like 10 or 12, it looks junky. It's overgrown, it's not well taken care of. So it's not that everybody is the same, but it just kind of keeps everybody accountable. Utilities, we have CoServe Electric out here, which is you become kind of a minority part owner of it. It's a co-op. Water and sewer and trash are controlled by the city, and then you have different electric choices. You don't have a whole lot of choices of who your cable or internet is, but a lot of people are streaming now, so that's not as big of a deal as it used to be. Even 5 years ago. So that kind of touches on the cost of living and kind of the housing situation. The second thing is, you know, what is the lifestyle and amenities like out here? Well, you know, depending on what your age is, you know, do you have children? Do you have a family? Do you have grandkids? What is it you're kind of looking for? Because there are, I'll use Bridlewood again because this is a great community and I live here. You know, our amenities include access to, we have a golf course. You don't have to be a member. It's not a private golf course. They have a club where you can have lunch or dinner, which is really pretty good. Their menu is pretty diverse. We also have 2 swimming pools, Olympic-sized swimming pools, with little kids' pools that are like 1.5 feet deep. And there's playground, you know, a couple playgrounds and stuff. We have a fire department right in the middle of Bridlewood. And then behind me is one of the middle schools, and Bridlewood also has its own Bridlewood Elementary. And there are trails and trails and trails that you can walk on and exercise. And it's a main street to Cross Timbers Road, or you're not too far from 1171. But my point is, you know, what are you looking for in amenities? Some of these, like Wellington, which is right south of me, they have a great amenity center, big pool, and some areas have disc golf, which I'm not super familiar with, but I've seen it, and I haven't ever seen people work on it. But you know, it depends on what your amenities that you're looking for in an HOA and what you're looking for as far as a lifestyle. Flower Mound borders on the south end with Lake Grapevine. There are boating marinas that you can go to that are great. Actually, they're pretty nice. One of them has a restaurant and has secured place for your boats. And then there's a lot of trails. I don't know how many miles it is, but there's miles of off-road bicycle trails along Lake Grapevine. And then there's a bunch of picnic areas. Twin Coves off of Wichita has a boat launch for kayaks, and it's got the little tiny house cabins, which is kind of cool, and that's a great day trip. And that's controlled by, I think that's the Army Corps of Engineers, but I'm not 100% sure. So you have trails and golf courses, and we have a senior center if you're of that age and want something like that. And then if you want to go to lunch, there's plenty of places to go to lunch, plenty of places to go to dinner, plenty of retail around. Shopping and dining, we're close to Highland Village. On the north side of Flower Mound, we have what's called the Highlands. It's got the Lowe's, it's got the big anchors, and it's got a bunch of restaurants around there. But if you go just north of 407, that turns into Highland Village, where you have access to all that, and there's a whole nother group of restaurants and the giant Walmart, which is actually the nicest Walmart I've ever seen in my life, and DSW, and just all that stuff that you're looking for. And then you can always go east to Louisville, and there's some restaurants and shopping down there, and it gets you closer to 35 East. So we have, right where Flower Mound is, it's between 35 East and 35 West, and it comes together in Denton. It's confusing, I know, but just trust me on it. We're in between the two. If you go, and then you can always go to Denton. There's some cool stuff happening up in Denton. I mean, that's where the University of Texas, North Texas is, but there is a whole area, and it's about 25-30 minute drive from Flower Mound to get up to Denton. But there is tons of little cool restaurants on the east side of the downtown square. Even the square is pretty cool. It's pretty historic. So you've got a family-friendly vibe all through the city. I just found out today that it was in our electric bill that Flower Mound's going to have their first fall festival, and it's along an area called Riverwalk, where every Sunday they have a farmer's market, and there's a ton of tents out there. I say a ton, at least 20, maybe 30. And a lot of people go down there and check that out. It's a beautiful little area. There's a few restaurants down there. There's townhomes along the Riverwalk, and it's just kind of a neat little area. And then wherever the HOA that you're kind of living in, they have their own events. Halloween's going to be coming up, and Christmas is going to be coming up. So there's always something going on. And Flower Mound, it doesn't get boring out here. So whether you're looking for family-friendly stuff, or if you're looking for stuff kind of in that retirement mode, believe me, Flower Mound's website is awesome because they've got all sorts of stuff going on. Now, let's say you're relocating. This would be the third thing that I want to touch on. You're relocating, and schools are important to you. So you got, school-age children. Louisville ISD covers the majority of Flower Mound. As you go to the west, there's Argyle School District, which is also very excellent. And then there's a small little pocket of Northwest ISD. I mean, small pocket. So all three of those school districts are excellent, but your biggest one's going to be Louisville ISD. And that's where most of the Flower Mound schools are. And a lot of these larger communities like Wellington, like Bridlewood, where I live, they'll have an elementary school and sometimes middle school, which we have both here. Wellington has the same. The high school, there's two high schools, Marcus and Flower Mound, and then if you go over to Argyle, there's Argyle High School. Flower Mound West, there's Argyle High School in there. It's confusing, I know. In Texas, the school boundaries are not the same as the city and town boundaries. I don't really know how they determine that, but it confuses everybody. So if you want to be in a certain school district, you really need to get with a realtor and make sure that you kind of do your research, because those lines, if you're on the border, those lines will change, not annually, but pretty frequently. So you kind of want to be deep in the area that you want to be in. Something else that I hear a lot of people ask me about are the STEM schools. And if you're not familiar with STEM, That sounds for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So the focus, where you have a normal school that it's kind of a buffet style, right? And where they're teaching everything. These STEM schools are more focused on those 4 categories. So if that's important to you, again, you do your research through the Louisville ISD and then get with the realtor to figure out how you can kind of be in that area for your child. School spirit I think school spirit kind of surprises people that are moving in from out of state. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Friday Night Lights, where they have a football game out in West Texas, or the football team in Odessa Permian, that's a real thing. That's a big deal. In Flower Mound and all over the place. I mean, they have high school games live on TV on Thursday and Friday nights, and they replay it. I mean, high school football is a big deal here. So you're going to see a lot of, if somebody's son is a football player or their daughter is a cheerleader, you're going to see signs in the yards where, it says Marcus, whatever their name is, if they're in the band, it's really kind of cool, and it's a big deal. And the whole town pretty much gets involved with it. The 4th thing that I'd like to touch on, if you're relocating from out of state into Texas, and if you still have family that's going to be out of state, is the proximity to DFW Airport. I travel a lot with my wife, and it's for us, it's a 20-minute drive from our door to the north side of DFW. The max I've seen is a 30-minute drive. But the great thing about being on the north side of DFW, and I have lived in Dallas, I have lived on the north side of Fort Worth before, is it's a straight shot into the airport. If you're coming from Dallas, that can be a 45-minute to an hour drive if you catch it on the wrong time of the day on the wrong highway. There's no major highways going into DFW from Flower Mound. You're going on the main street straight in through Grapevine, which is just a small shot, and then boom, you're right into the airport. And that's important if you're traveling or if you got family traveling to come and see you. So the access to DFW is pretty amazing. If you're going to commute if you are thinking about, okay, I'm going to be working in Dallas, or I'm going to be working in Frisco, or I'm going to be working in Plano, or I'm going to be working in Fort Worth, downtown Fort Worth, or downtown Dallas. Think about the area and what the commute is. And a realtor can help you with that. They can put in the MLS and get commute times. I mean, you can do it too, obviously. But there are a couple of tollway highways that run east-west, Sam Rayburn and George Bush. And then there are other highways going into the Dallas and Fort Worth that you can access as well. But, the commute into Dallas, just to go into Dallas, can be 45 minutes to an hour, one way, in traffic. If there's an accident, tack on another 30 minutes to an hour. So understanding the traffic patterns and where there's surprises and what do you do when you get stuck in something like this, trying to figure out where you're going to go next, that's a big deal. And a lot of people, that's what amazes me, is a lot of people want to live in Plano or Frisco, and then they commute into Dallas near downtown, and there's not a whole lot of way. There's only 2 major ways. You can either go down the Dallas North Tollway, or you can go down 75 Central, which is, those things, there's an accident every day. Just depends on what time of the day it is, guaranteed. And on the tollway, you get to pay for that right to be on the tollway and sit there. That's what's frustrating. The thing I like about Flower Mound is that there's so many different routes that you can kind of get around and go north, south, and east and west. You get a little bit landlocked on some of this other deals. The other thing I want to touch on, so this would be 1, 2, 3, 4 things we've talked about. The 5th thing I want to talk about is the weather and the seasons. And it gets hot here. I mean, not desert hot, but it gets hot. And when it's hot, it's a humid hot. It's not a dry heat like you have out in Arizona or in the desert. It's a humid hot, and this is 2025, and we did not have, I didn't think, a brutal summer like we have had in years past. But be prepared, it does get hot, and we don't have a whole lot of, to me, we don't have a whole lot of seasonal changes. Like, it goes from hot, 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 and then it's cool for a couple of weeks, and then boom, it's cold. And it freezes here. I mean, we've had snow, we've had ice, and I don't think that people are prepared for that. I mean, I wear a heavy coat from first part of January almost through the middle of March here. I mean, it doesn't really start getting cold until January or February, but when it gets cold, it's cold. And a lot of people, especially if they're coming from Arizona, that I've experienced, Arizona or California, is they start getting allergies, and there's a lot of pollen. I don't have anything around me that I can show you, but there's cottonwood trees, and it's like this floating cotton. There's a lot of vegetation, a lot of beautiful trees, as you can kind of see behind me. And some people have allergy problems that they have to have addressed with the doctor. And I know that everybody's heard about the tornado deal. Tornadoes, yes, they do happen, but they don't come around to this area that often. But you still need to be prepared, still need to be alert. There are air raid sirens that go off. And it's all over the local news. So, you know, when the weather starts getting bad, just be smart and watch the news. Some of the local things that I kind of think are kind of a gem and kind of a surprise, to me they are, is, first of all, Lake Grapevine, which is just amazing and it's beautiful. And it's interesting because it's not super crowded or busy like Lake Louisville is, which is just right next door. I don't know why, but I think Lake Grapevine's prettier anyway. You know, and you'll find stuff once you move here. Like, I live in Bridlewood, and there is a golf course here, but it's not a private club, and you can use the restaurant whenever you want. Now, if you join the club, you get like 30% off of your food and stuff. I'm not going to do that because I don't play golf, and I don't eat there that often. But it's something that you can do. The thing that I love about Flower Mound is it's kind of a mix of a small town. It's got that small town feel, but it's got all the big city stuff, if that makes sense. I mean, we've got 80,000 people that live here. It continues to grow. Retail continues to move here. We're getting, you know, some more coffee shops and some more restaurants, and there are the major chains here. The big box grocery stores, the big box retail is here. And so you don't really have to go to Dallas and Fort Worth. I mean, if you want to go and experience it, it's fine. We don't have a mall here. I mean, the closest mall would be Vista Ridge Mall over in Louisville, but there's plenty of retail and shopping and dining. I mean, you can go a whole year and not hit all the restaurants here. So the last thing I want to say is, you know, when you're relocating, and everybody that I've kind of dealt with in relocation is sometimes they're not sure whether they want to buy or if they want to rent first. You know, if you decide you want to rent first, my recommendation is that you try to find a place with a 3 to 6 month lease, because, you know, if you get nailed down into a year-long lease and then you find something that comes on the market that you really want to purchase, then there's all sorts of fees and stuff that's going to, you know, you're going to have to pay to get out of it. If you go with the shorter lease term, you've got some flexibility. It's going to be hard to find, like, if you want a house, somebody that's going to do 3 or 6 months. Everybody that I've ever worked with has a minimum of a year, but you know what? If a year is your timeline, then a year is a timeline. The one thing that I would tell you, and I've done a video on this before, is if you have an opportunity to get here on the weekends, most new homes go on the market in our vicinity on Thursdays and Fridays, and then they have a corresponding open house that weekend. Now, as a realtor, broker, which I am, we can get in any time, right? But if you haven't made a decision on a realtor or a broker and you're not ready to take that step, that's fine. But open houses are the best way to kind of check out the different neighborhoods and check out the different areas and kind of get an idea of what you want and what you don't want. If anything else, you can check off the box and say, I don't want these things. You don't have to say, I want these things. If you check off what you don't want, then it's easier to find what you do want, if that makes any sense at all. And, the last thing is find somebody, if you're going to work, when you work with a realtor, find somebody like myself that lives here, that knows the area, whether they live in Argyle or Highland Village or Flower Mound or Louisville, somewhere in the vicinity, if they're not living in Flower Mound, so that they are living and working and understand the area and understand the culture. Because if you're working with somebody that's an hour or 45 minutes away, I don't care what they tell you. I've been doing this long enough. I've seen enough realtors. They will show you anything, anywhere. Find somebody that lives and works and really understands the community, because this is a great community. I'd like to see you be a part of it. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments below. I'm Chris Hooper with Chris Hooper Realty.